Hola clase, today we're going to look at a new kind of verb, reflexive verbs. In this video I'll tell you about reflexive pronouns. I'll tell you what tense to use the reflexive pronouns with, how to know that a verb is reflexive, and how to use them when you want to make a negative sentence. What is a reflexive verb? It's a verb that has a special extra part on it called a reflexive pronoun. These verbs are actions that the person who's doing the verb is usually doing to him or herself. The action reflexes, turns back onto the person. A similar word, reflection, like a reflection in a mirror, might help you to visualize this. I look at myself in the mirror, and who do I see? I see myself in the mirror. But here's another hint. You already know a reflexive verb. You learned it at the very beginning of your Spanish class. You know how to say yo me llamo, and to ask someone ¿Cómo te llamas? Or to talk about your dog or your cat, like mi gato se llama Fluffernutter. So these are actually reflexive verbs. I call myself whatever my name is. What do you call yourself? See, you were using a reflexive verb all along and didn't know it. But here are some others. Acostarse, which means to go to bed. Remember, that's a stem changer in the present tense. Dedicarse a, which means to do something for a living. Despertarse, to wake up, another stem changer. Ducharse, which means to shower. Levantarse, which means to get up. A little bit different than waking up. Some of us wake up and get up at the same time. Some of us wake up and then we go back to sleep for a long time until we finally get up. Maquillarse, which means to put makeup on oneself. And vestirse, to dress oneself. And this E changes to I. It's a stem changer in the present tense and also in the preterite tense. I'd like to keep this list short for now, but you can see that we have AR verbs, we have IR verbs. They also come in ER verbs. Any kind of a verb can be reflexive. AR, ER, IR, stem changers, spelling changers, regular, irregular. You can also use them in any tense. So I can say that I have taken a shower today, or that I will take a shower tomorrow, or that I take a shower every day, or I took a shower last week. One thing that we have to pay attention to is that we're used to looking for the AR, ER, or IR at the end of the word, but now we've got this extra special word. Let's go on and see what that is. Okay, the extra special part that comes in a reflexive infinitive or in a conjugated form is called the reflexive pronoun. They're the equivalent in English to something like myself or yourself. So for yo, it would be me. For tú, te. Él, ella, and usted share se. Nosotros and nosotras use nos. Vosotros and vosotras use os. Ellos, ellas, ustedes, se. So this is pretty much equivalent to myself, yourself, himself, herself, or yourself when we're being formal and usted-like. Ourselves, yourselves when we're being informal and using vosotros. Themselves or yourselves. Okay, let's try conjugating ducharse, which means to shower, and let's do it in the present tense just to keep things easy. First of all, we have to figure out, is it an AR, ER, or IR verb? The easiest thing to do is to take the se off the end and just kind of hold it for a while, okay? We're going to turn it into those reflexive pronouns. Do you remember them from the previous screen? Yo, what's the one for yo? Me, how about tú? Él, ella, and usted. Se, nosotros and nosotras. Nos, vosotros and vosotras. Os, ellos, ellas, and ustedes. Do you remember? Se. Okay, now that we took off the little se from the end of the infinitive and floated it over to the front and turned it into the right form, we can just chop off the AR, ER, or IR and go ahead and conjugate the verb like we would always do. I moved the duch part of the word down, but of course that's not really a word all by itself in Spanish, so let's add the ending. So for the present tense, me ducho, tú te duchas, él, ella y usted ducha, nosotros duchamos, ducháis, and duchan. One more thing, if you want to make the sentence negative and say I don't shower, maybe I like to take a bath instead, the no goes here in front. That's different from English. Okay? That's different from English. I do not shower myself. The word order is different, so be careful to put the no in front. Let's try some practice. Feel free to pause the recording in between. Yo me ducho. ¿Y Juan? Does he take a shower too? Juan se ducha. ¿Y tus padres? Mis padres se duchan. ¿Y los gatos? Los gatos no se duchan, no les gusta el agua. ¿Y nosotros, los seres humanos? Nosotros nos duchamos. ¿Y nos vestimos? Sí, nos vestimos. ¿Y los perros? Los perros no se visten. Oh, sometimes we put clothes on dogs, and it's important to note that a lot of these verbs can be used in a non-reflexive way. So I can bathe myself, or I can bathe the dog, or I can bathe the baby. I can put clothes on myself, or I can dress the dog. But reflexives, again, is when the action is coming back to the person who's doing it. And please don't put those little funny hats on dogs. They don't like it. Okay, so we've established that dogs do not put clothes on themselves. Los perros se maquillan. Los perros no se maquillan. ¿Y tu tía? Mi tía se maquilla. But let's say that your aunt is not the makeup wearing kind. How would you make that no? Where do you put no in this sentence? Mi tía no se maquilla. Would go right in the middle. Okay, ¿y tú? ¿Tú te maquillas? Yo me maquillo. If you're not a makeup wearing person, where do you put the no? Right here. Yo no me maquillo. ¿Y Marcos? Marcos no se maquilla. ¿Se levanta temprano Marcos? Marcos se levanta temprano. Maybe you know a different Marcos and maybe he does not get up early. Where would you put the no? Marcos no se levanta temprano. ¿Y yo? Do you know me by now? Do you think I get up early? Usted se levanta temprano. ¿Y los estudiantes? Los estudiantes no se levantan temprano. ¿Se acuestan temprano? Se acuestan tarde. At least a lot of students tell me that they do. ¿Y tu perro? Se acuesta temprano. ¿Y tus abuelos? Mis abuelos se acuestan temprano. ¿Y se despiertan temprano también? Sí, se despiertan temprano. ¿Y tú y tu compañero o compañera de cuarto? Nos despertamos tarde. ¿Y la profesora? La profesora se despierta muy temprano. Okay, let's recap what we've looked at. This is what we learned about reflexive verbs. They often indicate actions that we perform on or to ourselves. As you go on in Spanish, you'll find more that act like that, and even that some that don't obviously use something like self or selves in English. We know that reflexive verbs have an extra word, the reflexive pronoun. Me, te, se, nos, os, and se. They end in arse, erse, or irse, and we have to get rid of that se before we conjugate them, and we can conjugate them in any tense. And they have no in a different spot than English would. Feel free to review if you'd like. We'll practice more in class. Hasta la próxima!